Hello everyone, my name is Ryan and I'm here at AXIBO Media today. So in this video we're going to be talking about the story of AXIBO and what AXIBO is. Now typically what you're going to see on this channel is you're going to see tutorials on how to use AXIBO, how to set up time-lapse and animal photography shots, how to do motion videography, all kinds of cool things. But today we're just going to be doing a story. And that story is the story of AXIBO and how AXIBO happened and how AXIBO came to be. And then at the end of this video, I'm going to tell you guys, and I'm going to show you guys AXIBO, and I'm going to tell you what AXIBO is, and explain to you how it works. Now, where this story begins is it begins with my photography adventure, and this starts when I'm a kid. It starts when I'm very young. My dad, he's a very excellent photographer, and he always had the latest and the coolest photography equipment. And I think what that gave me is that gave me a very interesting, view on photography, and I loved the equipment. I loved the way it looked, I loved the way it felt, I loved the way it was built. It was absolutely fantastic. Now, the stuff that he had was a lot of medium format cameras. It was a lot of Rolleiflex and Pentax, really, really big things that were very expensive to shoot with because medium format was very, very expensive to develop. And he also had some 35mm things that were really cool as well. Now, as I get a bit older, I start to, say, Dad, I think, I want to start shooting with this stuff. So I asked him, can I buy one of your old 35mm off of you? And sure enough, eventually he lets me do it. So he lets me buy he was reluctant about it, but he lets me buy this Nikon F3, so I still have it. And this thing, I still shoot with it today. It's actually got some Ilford 120 in it right now. And this is a 35mm film camera, and it's really, really cool, really, really great camera at the time. This kind of began my adventure into photography. So I shot with this for a few years. Until the digital age starts to really kick in, at that point someone had given me a Minolta DSLR, and this Minolta had it was a 6-megapixel sensor, very tiny sensor, it came with some cool lenses as well. This stuff's completely obsolete now, but at the time it was really, really neat. So I started to shoot with that and get more involved, and I really, really learned a lot about the basics of photography as far as composition goes, as well as the functions of a camera. But that's where my photography career kind of winds down a little bit, unfortunately. And the reason for that is that I start to get very involved in school and also very involved in work. And I'm still taking pictures through this period, but I'm not really into it, and I'm not exploring photography. I'm not exploring all the new things that photography has to offer. So in my day job, what I do is I'm an automation engineer. So I design robotics, I design a lot of motion systems, and do a lot of different things like that. Things that have to do with building things, and building things fast, and adding automation. Now, because of this, I like to tinker a lot on the side. So I like to do a lot of videos where I make 3D printed robots and do weird things like that. And I also have another YouTube channel where I talk about these things and I show people these things. And in one of the videos that I've been working on, I have to show something that's a bit bigger. And I have to kind of pan and tilt around the room to show, actually I just have to pan around the room to show, what it is I'm building while I'm talking about it. And because I do these videos on my own, I don't really have anybody to kind of hold the camera, do the videography for me. So for that I needed to make something. And because of the work I do, I thought, building something that can pan and tilt is really easy. That's not hard for me to do at all. I can just design something, print it, set it up, and then run it and then film my videos. It's not hard at all. I hadn't even looked online to see if these things even existed, and I could just buy it. But anyway, so that's where AXIBO was born. I had to create that video, and then I needed something to pan and tilt. The story develops a lot, but that's kind of where it starts. So, I hopped on my computer, started to do the design, came up with something. The next day I printed it, assembled it, everything was working really well, and I was panning and tilting around. And I actually have that design here as well. And that design is this thing here. So it's made out of plastic because it's 3D printed. And you can see that it will tilt your camera, so your camera mounts on this crossbar. You can tilt your camera here, and then you can also rotate the camera like this, and it'll rotate, over 360 degrees. Very easy to control from a software perspective. Very, very simple design, but very good. Also holds a lot of weight. You can actually see a video of that thing probably somewhere on our Instagram feed. If not, I might do a little tutorial, or sorry, a little video about it later. Yeah, it's a pretty cool device. So the next step in this is I started to show people what this thing was. Someone had asked me, it was just sitting in the corner of my shop, and someone had come in and said, what is that thing? And I kind of explained it to them, and they were, you know, this person did photography on the side as well. And, you know, they said, well, you know, like, why don't we try and shoot a time lapse with this thing? Because it's kind of the same thing. Like, can I do that? And I said, well, it can move like very precisely. Like, despite the fact that it's plastic, it's still very smooth, very precise. Sure. So I wrote the software and we set it up. We did a time lapse of, you know, panning across the clouds. It turned out really well. And, you know, I was surprised. Like, I'd never done motion time lapses before, never even thought they were a thing. And it looked really good. And he said, you know what, like, this thing's so easy to build. Like, why don't you print some of these and just see, like, if anyone else wants them? Like, it's a really cool idea. And I said, okay, like, sure. And again, I still hadn't looked to see, you know, like, what else was out there and how I could make this thing better. It was just a little side thing. And then I started to, like, just, like, ask other photographers about it. And then I also sat down with some other people, and these are other professionals that I've worked with, and just kind of over a beer, I was telling them about, you know, like, what my design was. We were all talking about the things we've been working on, and one of the guys in the room, he does machine vision, and what this is it's using video feeds to get information from them and to get information from pictures. So, for example, like in autonomous cars use machine vision to get you know, a license plate maybe, or to figure out how far away a car is, or where a car is, or where a pedestrian is. So that person works on software like that, and he said, well, you know, like, why don't we stick a camera on this thing? Like, it's obvious, and then we can start to track things. So, for example, instead of me having to set up a panning shot or have a remote control, I can walk around the room, and this thing's going to follow me, you know, as I walk around the room, and it's going to be very smooth, and it's going to you know, just track me as I move around. And you know, then someone else pipes up, one of the photographers who was with us, and he said, you know, well, like, we don't just have to track humans. You can track all kinds of things. You can track anything you want, as long as all of the software is there. So, for example, if you wanted to track a car driving around, or if you wanted to track you know, a dog, or if you wanted to track, you know, just some arbitrary object, you could do it. And I said, well, you know, like, yeah, like, this is, like, you can do all these things. Like, this is cool, but, like, you know, I don't know if we can put this all in a small package. I don't know if we can make this something that's easy to carry around and just for anybody to set up. So that's when we started to look at the design, and that's kind of when the real AXIBO was born. And now I want to show you guys the real AXIBO and, like, what it looks like today. This is a brand new prototype. We literally just finished assembling this thing about 4 days ago. So we're still doing a lot of setups, still doing a lot of testing on it. But yeah, it looks really cool. Hey guys, so this is AXIBO. This is it. This is what we've been working on. At least this is the prototype after you know, the last 4 days of assembly. There's still some things that are missing, still some things that we're working on. But anyway, how this works, I'm gonna give you guys a quick demo now just to show you. I don't want to give everything away yet. We've got a lot more videos coming up. Down here we have our bottom axis. This is what allows panning. Right now we have the brakes off, so we're allowed to move it freely. So we can pan around like this. The next thing that you can see is that we have another axis here. This is our tilting axis, so this lets us tilt our camera up and down like this. Here at the end you can see that we have a quick release tripod mount for, universal adapter mount for the quick change. This allows you to mount just about anything you can mount on a tripod can get mounted here, as well as just normal threading for tripod mounting, for camera threading, sorry. Then also we can take this and we can move it forward, we can move it backward, and we can move it up and down here as well. And what that lets us do is it lets us keep our lens centered all the time. It lets it keep it centered around the center of axis of rotation here and the center of the rotation here. And we're going to find out later why that's very important, because it's a very useful thing when you're setting this up. So there's also a camera that gets mounted here. We don't have that installed right now. So what that lets you do is it lets you do the tracking. So let's say you have a dog walking by. The camera is going to be looking at it and it's going to be tracking it as the dog walks by or however it's moving. And again, this thing can move very fast. It's almost scary, but it's also very accurate. And I'm going to show you guys that in some future videos. So guys, thank you so much. This is what we've come up with so far. We want to hear about it. We want to hear what you guys think about it. Again, we're going to be showing more videos later. Thanks for following along on the adventure so far, guys. Subscribe so that you know, we can keep filling you guys in on what we're doing here at AXIBO. So thanks very much.